Let's go, girls.
Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe.
Let's go! It is Women Talking Football, WTF, not to be confused with WFT. We are the women, a pair of producers for Dave Campbell's Texas Football and Dave Campbell's Texan Live. I'm the executive producer. My name is Ashley Pickle, sitting over there running the ship today. It is Miss Mallory Hartley, our associate producer. Howdy.
Howdy. How's it going?
You look upset.
Oh, no, I'm just making sure the streams are up so you can hear me.
Oh, cool.
And you.
How
How you feeling?
How am I feeling?
Yeah, from last night.
Why does everyone feel like we need to start all of the shows that I'm on today like that? I'm fine. Everything is fine. I had fun. I'm fine.
Go
Anyway.
Mavs. Go Mavs.
Ugh, well, our audio's working. I can tell you that.
Yeah, did you doubt me?
Now, no.
Yes.
I didn't. I didn't turn on my thing. It just happened.
You just doubt me. That's why.
I want a refund.
On what?
A best friend.
Ouch. You don't.
No, I
You
don't.
certainly do not.
But you keep talking mess, and I'm gonna think about it.
I won't talk more mess.
Anyway, we're Women Talking Football, if we make it to the end of this episode. It is episode number 55. We are in week 10 of the Texas high school football season, and boy, howdy, is it an unbelievable slate of games. This is a brand name shopper week. We have a ton of brand name games. It's crazy that they're all falling in the same week, but we'll get to that in a minute. Many of them on Dave Campbell's Texan Live and our spotlight games on Dave Campbell's Texas Football tonight. We will reveal those in just a moment. After that, let's talk some Super Centex and Hill Country football, one of my favorite regions of the state. We'll be joined by Kaysen, sports reporter and sports anchor Nicole Sharon. Incredibly excited to have her on with us. She's in Kaysen, which is in the Waco area, Channel 6 down there. So we'll talk with her a little bit about that. We'll look at the ranked teams and, of course, the players to watch out of that region. But I've been dying to reveal the spotlight games for week 10 of Dave Campbell's Texas Football tonight, and let's get right into it. Starting off tonight, a couple of really, really good games here on TexanLive.com. Willis, the 15th ranked Wildcats, taking on the 25th ranked the Woodland Highlanders. If you are interested in recruits, here is a game for you. This one likely to decide the District 13 6A title, on top of proving just how legitimate we think that this Willis squad will be. We actually talked about it earlier, and you know that they have DJ Lagway, and we were like, okay, this is going to be a pretty good team, but Willis has really, I feel like, taken the next step and proven that they have a lot more than just DJ Lagway. Their defense has looked good. Their receivers have been on point. It's great to have an Elite 11 superstar quarterback, but it's not great if he doesn't have anyone to throw the ball to. Willis is looking deep, and I feel like this will be a really, really good test to see just how deep they are, especially with a defense having to go up against Mabry
Maytower.
Thank you. Every time, I don't know what it is, I stumble over his name every single time. And then Quanell Faircon is on there too. So it'll be a big test from the Wildcats defense to see how well they're able to stop a very explosive Woodlands offense. So I think it'll be a high scoring affair, but one that we're quite excited to watch. That one happening tonight. I
love that quarterback matchup.
Oh, it rocks.
I saw that game and I was like, oh man, that's a superstar quarterback matchup there.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. So that one happening at 7 o'clock tonight. Chase Snyder on the call. Should be guaranteed to be a good one. Moving on to the insanity that is District 19 6A. We head down to Katy, Texas, as we do most weeks. Katy Jordan, the Warriors, the new program, taking on Katy Tompkins. And let me just read you the records of 19 6A. So Katy, the Tigers, have solidified their first place start or first place
spot, yeah,
in 19-6A, unless something absolutely chaotic happens. Like, that would be the biggest shock across the state, period, if Katy was to lose a game the rest of the season. But Katy Taylor sitting at 5-1 in district, Katy Cinco Ranch sitting at 4-3, Katy Jordan 4-2, Katy Tompkins 4-2. Now, obviously in 6A, there's the big split difference as to whether or not who goes 6A D1, who goes 6A D2. So you add all of that into the chaos that is Katy just beating up on each other in Katy ISD. This one sure to set some standards on where we think some of these teams are going to go, but should be a good game tonight. That one, we have Michael Silvers and Brent Hallmark on the call, 6:30 from Rhodes Stadium down there in Katy, Texas. Moving on now to what is just an incredible slate of Friday night affairs here on Dave Campbell's Texan Live. Again, you can watch all of these games in their entirety on Texan Live, or you want to talk about the perfect week to dive into Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight, our NFL kind of red zone style show where we're bouncing around from game to game. We have a quad box. We have a hexa box. All of the boxes. You can watch almost all of these games at once throughout the course of the evening. This is the week to do it because we start off down in the southeastern part of Houston as the number 4th ranked Port Arthur Memorial Titans face off against district foe, the Barbers Hill Eagles, out of District 8 5A D1. So this is another one of those districts that's still a little bit up in the air as to whether or not who's going to be able to walk away as champion. So Port Arthur does have a win over LaPorte. Barbers Hill, their one loss was to LaPorte. So if Port Arthur Memorial is able to handle business against the Eagles of Barbers Hill, they should likely take the crown for 8-5A D1. If Barbers Hill was to beat Port Arthur Memorial, that's when we start looking at some big different tiebreakers and everything that would be happening there. If Barbers Hill wins, it is for sure to have a share of the district championship. It could be a 3-way tie, it could be a 2-way tie, but very excited to see that and how that unfolds there. Let's head down to District 9, 5A Division 2. A matchup unlike any other, on top of the fact that it is the 100th edition of Mid-County Madness. If you were
crazy.
Anywhere down there in Southeast Texas, this is the place that you want to be. And if you haven't bought your tickets yet, I got bad news for you because I don't think that there's any left. They
Probably all sold out.
They sold like 1,500 tickets in like the first 7 minutes of them being open. I mean,
yeah, that's not shocking.
If you have, I've never been to Mid-County Madness, but that is absolutely amongst the top 3 to 5 of my Texas high school football bucket list.
Yeah.
And it's even better this year as both of these teams trying to vie for the district title. They're P&G fresh off of their state championship appearance. You'll remember they played SOC in the 5AD2 championship last year, fell just short to them. They're now 5th ranked in 5AD2. Nederland at any point in time can come get P&G. You never want to cross any of them out there, but P&G's been great on the ground with senior running back Isaiah Wynn. He has over 1,000 yards rushing. Nederland will try to get their passing game going with their junior quarterback Aiden Sunday. He has 1,075 yards in the air thus far. So if P&G wins, they should have the outright title because they've already beaten Fort Bend Marshall and Texas City. If Nederland was to win, they have a loss to Fort Bend Marshall and then have Texas City next week. So a back-loaded schedule there for the Bulldogs, but step number 1 is going to be taking down the Indians of Port Neches Groves, and you can catch that one on Dave Campbell's Texan Live, the 100th battle of Mid-County Madness.
Speaking of backloaded schedules.
Ooh, buddy, let's stay in the Houston area for a matchup that every single person has had circled on their schedule from the moment that the schedules were released. We take you down to 21-6A as the 7th-ranked Atascocita Eagles and their head coach Craig Stump take on Willie Gaston and his 2nd-ranked North Shore Mustangs. I shouldn't have to get you excited for this game. 21-6A is just a blast. Atascocita almost made it less interesting by having to go into overtime with Summer Creek, another fantastic squad out of District 21-6A. And so I'm interested. Was Atascocita looking ahead too far? Were they not playing as
Last week?
well?
Yeah,
against Summer Creek because they were looking ahead to North Shore?
Wasn't it CE King?
Was it CE King?
CE King. They played.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. They already
because-
beat Summer Creek.
No, they have Summer Creek left. They've got
Oh,
so they've got North Shore,
Jesus.
and then Atascocita's
That's
got
right.
Summer Creek. That was like backloaded
North
schedule.
Shore and Summer Creek
Yes.
was a really good game.
Yes, you're right.
That was
That's
a
what the-
Thursday night
correct.
affair 2 weeks ago. That was a really good
Right.
game.
But even going back to your point, I mean, CE King played Atascocita right down to the wire last week. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think the final score ended up being just a 1 touchdown game. So to your
Yeah,
point,
it was in overtime.
Like they could have been looking ahead to this week against North Shore.
Yeah, and so that's what we were wondering there, because the other thing, speaking with some of our confidants that were out at the game, they said it looked like Atascocita was playing CE King a little hesitant. They weren't playing as aggressive as they usually do, and all the stumps over there, they're not one to play light or to not throw some trickery at you. So very interested to see this. I mean, obviously if you're into quarterback, Zion Brown versus Caleb Bailey is a fantastic quarterback matchup, but very interested to see what the first quarter here looks like, because that's where Summer Creek had so much success against North Shore. Was we said
We
North
did say
Shore
that, yeah.
is so used to getting out to a substantial, you look down, 7 minutes has gone by and they're up 21-0, and you're trying to just claw your way out of a hole. What Summer Creek did so well was hold them off and force them to play in the second through fourth quarter, which they don't usually have to do.
Right.
If Atascocita is able to do that, then this will be just as good as a game as we think that it will be. Very, very interesting to see that, on top of the fact that according to the stats that we were given from a very official, we were given it from the coaching staff.
Yes.
Atascocita, it leads District 21 6A in forcing turnovers. North Shore hasn't had any. They haven't forced any. And again, I know that some people are saying that's wrong. Those were the stats given to us from the coaches, so there's that. But regardless, the point of the matter is Atascocita has been a team that has capitalized off of forcing turnovers. North Shore has not done that this year. So if Atascocita is able to get a couple of those crucial turnovers, does North Shore have the defense to be able to stop Atascocita, who is an offense that can score just as easily as the Mustangs can? So Gavin Moritz on the call there from Galena Park Stadium. Very excited to see that one. All right. As if it could get any better, let's keep going, but this time we're heading up to the DFW District 5 6A clash between the McKinney Lions at C.H. Collins, with the home team being Denton Geyer. McKinney lost a little bit of its shine when it lost to Allen. A disappointing loss for the Lions, but they have a chance to make it up because, again, a backloaded schedule. How about this and then Prosper next week?
I was going to say, if McKinney is able to grab a win against Denton Geyer tonight, then next week will definitely determine the District 5 6A title game.
Yes, because
Prosper.
Geyer already lost to Prosper.
Yes.
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 But Geyer did beat Allen, too. So you want to talk about teams starting to miss the playoffs.
True.
That's where you're taking a look at
right.
it. Obviously, Allen would be going D1. So it's all up in the air. And this is one of those districts that this last 2 weeks and the enrollment numbers are going to be one that you absolutely want to keep your eye on, because 2 teams will go D1 and 2 teams will go D2. All right, how about this one? A battle of unbeatens at Justin Northwest Stadium in
keeps getting better.
District 4 6A, as the 6th-ranked Southlake Carroll Dragons traveled just north to take on the 11th-ranked Byron Nelson Bobcats in a matchup that we're just excited for. And Tepper and I talked about it earlier. I think it's impossible to say that if Byron Nelson was to beat Southlake, that would be the largest win in program history for the Bobcats.
Yes. This is a really interesting game, too, because if you take a look at Southlake's schedule, they really haven't played anybody up to their caliber yet. And they've beaten the teams that they've played pretty dang handedly. Like, this offense is just absolutely cooking with Graham Knowles, the Georgia Tech quarterback, there at the helm, and then his go-to guy in Jacob Jordan. It's cooking right now, and they're cooking at the right time. But this is also probably the toughest defense that South Lake Carroll has played against this entire season. So I'm really interested to see how this offense is able to handle this defense that has kept teams from scoring under 25 pretty much the entire season. So it'll probably be a lower scoring affair, I would say.
See, I don't know. I think it's going to be high scoring because Byron Nelson also has an unbelievable offense. I mean, obviously, says that was the thing about Byron Nelson is they lost Jake Wilson, and we were like, okay, who's going to step up? Ton Van Grott has really stepped up
really
on
good,
quarterback. On top of the fact that Byron Nelson has a 1-2 punch with Tucker James at running back.
Yeah.
So I think it. I don't know.
It's tough. It could go one of two ways. You know, it's either these defenses are really going to step up and keep the offenses from getting on the scoreboard,
right?
Or it's just going to be an absolute shootout,
right? I think you're. I agree with that. It's either going to end up 45-35,
right,
or 49-45, or it'll be like, whoever gets to 14 first or 17 first is going to win. I would be shocked if this ends in like a 28-21.
Right.
I just don't think that kind of mid-range thing is going to happen. I think it's either going to be bludgeon on bludgeon when it comes to the defense, or it's going to be, okay, who's going to get the ball last, because that's who's going to win.
Right.
But yeah, I think the South Lake Carroll offense against the Byron Nelson defense is definitely going to be the premier matchup to watch.
And then obviously I think this is safe to say it's for the district title.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely for the district title game. And I think, the first time in a long time that we've looked at South Lake Carroll and said, hey, this could be a district loss for them.
I don't know when the last time that's happened.
Yeah, so on the road against a stadium that is going to be packed. Our host, Nick Laupius, incredibly excited for this one, a graduate of Byron Nelson. I'm not saying there's a little bit of a grudge there, but there's a little bit of a grudge there. But if I know one thing about South Lake Carroll is there's nothing they love more than haters. So I don't think anybody's going to get upset over anybody saying that.
Right.
But very, very, very excited to keep an eye on this one. How about we round it out as if it could not get any better? It does. The number 1 ranked Duncanville Panthers taking on district foe number 3, the DeSoto Eagles. A battle of reigning state champions in the highest classifications. Obviously, Duncanville, D1, DeSoto, D2. It's not going to change this year either. I'm comfortable saying that. So that's almost what makes this game so fun in my mind, is as fun as it is for two teams in 6A to be vying for the 1 seed or the 2 seed heading into the playoffs, that's fine. But for both of these teams, they know they're going to lock down the number 1 seed in both of their respective divisions.
Right.
So you're playing for bragging rights. This game is solely based off of bragging rights.
Right. And if we know both Coach Mathis and both Coach Samples,
no one loves bragging rights
correct,
more than the two of those guys.
Correct.
And we've talked about the District of Doom for so long. Obviously, last year with the two of them, and then Sock and 580D2, we talked about the 3 state champions, all from the I-20 corridor within 20 minutes of each other and all that stuff. This is nothing but vibes, nothing but fun, and we cannot wait to watch this matchup. We hope you will join us along with us. That'll be Reagan Ratcliffe and Mitch Mason on the call, joining us at halftime from the biggest push that Duncanville will get all year long, as Claude Mathis and his DeSoto Eagles has their eyes set on taking down what will eventually be the number 1 seed in 6A Division 1. So an unreal lineup of games there on Dave Campbell's Texan Live as a whole. We have a ton more games other than that, but Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight, if there has ever been a reason to watch the show, it is this week because of the just plethora of games that are going on that have such high stakes and such high interest level from a statewide perspective.
And we can promise you that we are going to be putting 4, if not more, games up all at once too. So another reason to chime in, so you can definitely watch all of your favorite games at once on Texas Football Tonight, tomorrow night.
We love the quad bucks.
We love Now we got a Hexabox
We
going.
do have a
So I don't
Hexabox.
know which one I like more, the quad box or the Hexabox.
I like the Hexabox, and then eventually we'll just keep adding boxes. We're going to add boxes until they shut us down.
Yes.
And we control the stream, so no one's shutting us down, so
We're gonna eventually get to the point where we have every single game on Texan Live up at once. It's gonna be like 100 games.
I will not sleep.
What would that be
until-
called? What would that be called?
$100. It would have to be something like Centennial, a Centibox or something.
Centibox.
Like,
That's the goal.
yeah, CEN,
Yeah.
Centennial would be.
Yep. That's the goal there.
We got to get 100 games first at one time,
gotta-
but somewhere
the
our
first-
chief broadcast
We
engineer,
gotta get,
Jesse
like,
Wolf, is
6
going,
of them.
shut them up. Cut
'em
off
up.
their mics. No more. All right, so we hope you will join us tomorrow. Nick Laupius and Ishmael Johnson bringing you the best game coverage that you can find all across the state as we bounce around from all those insanely good spotlight games. That plus highlights all across the state, score updates, and all the fun quad boxing your little heart can handle. Up next, we're going to be joined by Nicole Sheeran from KSIN to talk a little bit of Greater Waco area football. But before we get there, Mal, let's hear from our sponsors at VCR Now. Born and bred in Texas hits a little different, as it should. Texas loves doing business with fellow Texans. VCR Now takes its Texas roots as seriously as its many partnerships with schools and universities around the state. It's also why we're so proud to promote our brand in the pages of the Texas Bible, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and on the airwaves of Texas Football Today. Driven by producing quality broadcast video, state-of-the-art audio, and LED video scoreboards at affordable prices, VCR Now makes sure to listen to your needs in its athletic department before recommending the next best steps. Building great products is our business, and it's our focus on building meaningful long-term partnerships with our clients that sets us apart. From our 24/7, 365-day help desk, the training lab in our hometown of Red Oak, or our sports marketing business plan that puts money back in the hands of our athletic departments we support, VCR Now is built to last. Reach out to us today at info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW. Again, that's info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW. Appreciate our good friends at VCR Now. All right, it is no surprise that there is an area in Texas that holds my heart. A portion of that is the hill country. Some might consider it the super Centex. And that is why we're going to be talking to KSIN sports anchor and reporter Nicole Sheeran as she joins us now. Nicole, how are you?
Hello. Thank y'all for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
Of course, we are excited to have you and to talk about a part of the state that knows its way around Texas high school football. We'll get to that in a second. Before that, we love to have anyone that we bring on tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, who are you? How'd you end up in Waco? And how much are you enjoying it so far?
Absolutely. So I am born and raised in Manhattan Beach, California. I went to Georgia for undergrad, got to throw my Go Dogs in there. And then I graduated from Georgia, went back home, got my master's at USC in sports broadcasting. And then literally the day before graduation, I signed my contract to move to Channel 6 and move to Waco. And it's been great ever since. It's been awesome. I'm a big, I love college football. Mm-hmm. I love high school football. Something that really attracted me about coming here was the fact that I was going to get to cover Baylor and college sports, but also obviously Texas high school football. There's nothing else like it. And so it seemed like the perfect fit. And it's been absolutely amazing.
Well, and you made a great choice in the Texas high school football realm of a place to end up, because it never goes without a year of us going, man, there is some seriously talented, really historic programs in that part of the state. For you, how exciting has that been to know that, okay, man, football starts in August, maybe even a little bit into July, and then we're going to be working all the way through December talking about Texas high school football because of the amount of talented programs down in the Waco area.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. It's the kind of high school football, programs that elite talent is coming out of these high schools. You're going to get to watch these guys play on Saturdays and even on Sundays too. And so it's the kind of thing where growing up in California, obviously, there's elite talent that comes out of some high schools there, but I never was around. I mean, I went to a school that football was not a thing really at my high school. And so moving here, the amount of excitement and the amount of talent that you are surrounded by every single week was eye-opening to me. Like, it opened a whole new realm that I was so excited to be able to, have a front row seat and be on that sideline every Friday and just get to experience that, because growing up, I never had any of that. So it has been an absolute blast. And like you said, I mean, we're going to be there all the way until December hits, starts in August, and we go all the way. So I couldn't have asked for a better experience.
Well, and here's the thing, too, about the Super Centex is that I feel like you've got a good chance of a team making it to AT&T Stadium for all the way up to the 4, 5, 6A level, and then going all the way down to possibly the 2A and the 1A level. So let's talk about big schools first. You've got your China Spring, your Waco Vega, maybe possibly Lorena. Which one of those teams, or maybe a team that you've been keeping your eye on, you think might have the best chance to make a deep playoff run and make it to AT&T Stadium in December?
So absolutely. First of all, you're right that we're lucky that, I feel like every year that we approach high school football, we expect to have teams make it to state. That's just something that we expect out of this area. And obviously last year, China Spring, had that incredible season. But I will say, y'all, one team that has really proven a lot to me recently is Lorena. I mean, they just had a historical win against Franklin last Friday. Ended the longest active winning streak in Texas high school football. They hadn't lost a game since 2020, I believe. So that's a team that I really have my eye on. I've had my eye on with them with new head coach Kevin Johnson, but I mean, Braylon Henry put on a show for them. I think they're going to make a deep playoff run. They've been to state before. They know what Arlington's like, and they know what it takes to get there. So that one's circled on my book for sure. China Spring has shown me a lot this season as well. Obviously, a different squad. I've talked to Tyler Beatty a lot about how the defense is completely different than what they're used to last season. They're very young, a little bit more inexperienced, but they've got quarterback Cash McClellan. They've got Kyle Barton. They've got those guys coming back to lead them through a deep playoff run. And I think it's just going to take those, both sides of the ball clicking to get back to state if, that's the goal at the end of the day.
So there's the big school. I am a huge fan of small school, and there is no better part of the state than down there in the Waco area to do that. Obviously, I don't have to introduce anybody to the Mart Panthers and what they've done under Coach Kevin Hoffman for all of these years, but even a program like Abbott in the 6-man ranks, Coach Terry Crawford taking his team to state. Those are two of the highlighted ones, but any other small schools that have been impressing you so far?
I was going to bring Abbott up because I think that's a school, obviously, every year people know they're an elite program. People know they're going to make deep runs. I really think, it's Terry Crawford's final season. He's very open about that. It's kind of his last dance in the head job. And I think for them to make it to state and win state this year would mean the absolute world to him. So I'm rooting for the Panthers hard on that one. Like you said, Mart is always a prolific offense school. They put up a huge amount of points every game. One school that's impressing me in that realm is Marlin this year. I think that Marlin has really, they were second in district last year. They had that kind of offense that puts up a lot of points on the board. But under Ruben Torres, I mean, they've really turned the program around in a sense that they're dominating in their district. And they're very close to either sharing the district title or taking the whole thing. So I've had my eye on them all season because Ruben Torres and I have talked a lot about the newer guys they have, the guys they have returning. Their quarterback's younger, but I think they can make a very deep run this season.
And you've already mentioned it a little bit, but obviously there's just no shortage of talented players around this Super Centex region. Of course, you've got Waco Connolly, cornerback Kobe Black. Everybody knows his name, but I'm interested to see who you've been keeping your eye on, maybe players that have flown a little bit under people's radars.
Absolutely. So on that squad specifically with Connolly, Kiefer Sibley is that guy. I will say that right now. He is the running back that everybody has to have their eyes on. I wouldn't say he flies under the radar, but I would say that, Kobe Black has a lot of attention on him. He's also an incredible athlete. But I think Kiefer Sibley is a guy that people need to watch more as well. I mean, every game that we shoot video and highlights of him, he is making spin moves and doing things on that field that I have never seen before. And so I think he's a kid and a dude that people need to watch. And if college coaches are listening, you need him on your squad because he's the kind of guy, one, he's just a great person. I've interviewed him a lot. He has a great head on his shoulders. He's dedicated. He's passionate. And he just wants to win and he wants to succeed. And I think on that team, that Connolly-Madisonville game this Friday is going to be a dogfight just because I think it's going to be a battle of the running backs. Madisonville's got Lorenzo Johnson on their squad, so I think it's going to be fun to watch Kiefer and Lorenzo kind of go head-to-head on that one. But if there's been one guy, honestly, I had my eye on Kiefer last year, and I was like, this guy is going places. And he kind of flew under the radar. He didn't have as many offers as some of the other big dudes, but they're slowly racking in. You see him come up on Twitter, and I think he is going to be that guy at the college level.
I think our director of recruiting would agree with you. She is Nicole Sheeran. She's a sports anchor and reporter down there at Kaysen in Waco. Nicole, thanks so much for joining us. Best of luck the rest of the season, and hopefully we'll be seeing you at AT&T Stadium come December.
Yes. Thank y'all so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nicole.
There she goes, Nicole Sheeran. You can follow her on Twitter at Nicole Sheeran TV for all of your greater Waco and Super Centex area. She's right. Kiefer Sibley's great. That's a very under the radar matchup between them and Madisonville this week. If you're looking for kind of one of those hipster picks, I think that's definitely one of them. But incredibly excited to see that one coming up. All right. We talked Super Centex with Nicole. We're going to continue to go through the rest of those teams, and then in the back portion, we'll take a look at the Hill Country breakdown. But let's continue on with our Super Centex as we take a look at one of the teams that were aforementioned in the China Spring Cougars. Out of 4A Division I, a name that has become synonymous with victories in Texas high school football the past couple of years, as she mentioned, Tyler Beatty. Because if I say Beatty, he's going to get on to me again. But Coach Tyler Beatty, we watched them play last week, actually, in Stephenville at Tarleton, and it's a different team this year. They've got 3 different losses on the season, one of which to Melissa, the number 1 team. So not a bad loss. That one's aging perfectly fine. The loss to Dallas Parish Episcopal was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
That's not to say that Parish is not an unbelievable team. They've taken down some really, really good teams this year, but just not what we were expecting out of the 2-time reigning state champions. And then obviously losing last week to Stephenville. So all that they have, this district in and of itself is crazy because all they have left after this is Waxahachie Life, which should be a win for China Spring. But Stephenville on the other side, obviously having the one-on-one tiebreaker against China Spring, they still have Alvarado and Waco La Vega. China Spring has already taken care of both of those teams.
Right.
It came down to the wire with Alvarado, but there is that possibility of some movement and shakers around there, specifically if Stephenville was to lose one of those games to either La Vega or Alvarado. So a very, very interesting district out of 5 4A Division I. The one thing that I'll say after, and I think you'll agree with this, China Spring has got the offensive skill power.
Yes. Correct.
Stephenville ate them for lunch on the Lions.
Yeah, that game was we knew that game was gonna be determined up front too. It was gonna be China Springs offensive line versus how well Stephenville's defensive line can get to Cash McCollum. And they absolutely just gave him hell.
Yeah, they really did.
He was scrambling for his life, which I think Cash McCollum took it pretty well, I would say. But still, I mean, he didn't have nearly as much time in the pocket as he usually does, to where he can throw 30-yard bombs down.
Right, and he's a
field.
mobile quarterback, but he's one that would rather stay in the pocket for the bomb in the air rather than run. And yeah, the Stephenville defensive line, one, is just massive in general, but they just manhandled the China Spring offensive line. So that was the one point of emphasis of China Spring is beatable, and it starts up there in the trenches, just not being as big. But the Cougars still rank number 9. Moving on down to 3A Division I, it's the number 7 Lorena Leopards, and like Nicole said, it's a team to be hot about. It's a team that we've been hot about for a couple of years now. So they actually lost to China Spring in week 1. Again, take that for what it is, considering they're 2 divisions higher than they are.
Right.
But they lost to China Spring, and then they lost to Waco La Vega in a 1-score game in week 4. Waco La Vega took China Spring to the ringer, another team that is 2 classifications up higher than them. And guess what? The huge win over Franklin. It was a third. She mentioned it since 2020. That was in the state championship game, or when they lost before then.
Yeah.
39-game winning streak busted as Lorena took down Franklin. Braylon Henry has been a star, over 1,500 yards rushing on the ground and 21 touchdowns. And it's been a great showing for Kevin Johnson. You'll remember the interesting story about Kevin Johnson being that he was the principal at Lorena before this year. A guy that had been around the football program for a long time. I think he was Ray Biles' offensive line coach for about 7 years. And when Coach Ray Biles got that illustrious state title after 30 years, decided to say it was time to hang up the hat, then Kevin Johnson ended up stepping in, and he's done a great job of keeping that Lorena program right on track. Moving over to 2A Division 1, the 10th ranked Holland Hornets, an undefeated squad out of District 13, 3A Division 1. Brad Talbert has done an unbelievable job with this Holland squad of getting them into being a state contender. Quarterback Desi Cantu leads the offense. Really good wins over Burton, Bremond, and facing off now against Schulenburg and Flatonia to round out the year. Moving on down to a team that needs no introduction as we head to 2A Division 2. It's the second-ranked Mart Panthers. After coming out of a very quick retirement, Kevin Hoffman has the Mart machine back on track. It's just hard. It's hard to know how dangerous Mart really is until the playoffs, and it's like that every year, and I don't think that they would disagree with you with that either. There's just not a whole lot of competition in their area,
district,
in their
right.
classification. So it's very, very hard in non-district to get people to agree to play you. So it won't be until the playoffs that we really have a good thumbprint. But obviously playing in the state championship game, lost to Albany last year, but looking to get back as most of those kids are now a year older and ready to still ball out. So the Mart Panthers, we will find out more about them inevitably when they finally make it to the playoffs. Staying into a Division 2, how about the number 8 ranked Chilton Pirates? Benny Hewitt lost last year in the regional semifinals, but this group has been on the hunt, and he's got the Pirates up and running. So I have this written down because it was we're at that point in the year where there's so much going on in these district games that are so meaningful. Like, you got to write them down or else you're going to forget about it. But they had a 3-point loss to Granger on the road last week, which I think that you can count as an upset. That bumped them down to number 8 in the rankings, but Granger will have the driver's seat if they can beat Iola in week 11. But the top 4 is all chaos there. Chilton has already beat Iola, so that takes out one of the things, lost to Granger, and then we'll see how that ends up shaking out for the Pirates. Moving down to the 6-man ranks now, 1A Division 1. The Longhorns of Gordon, and what an unbelievable win or year that they're having so far. Out of District 9, they're 6-0. Head coach Mike Reed very impressed with how his Longhorns have been playing. And I think the most impressive part about this is their skill players were really, really young heading into the year. And it was like, they have a chance to be really good if they can kind of come into fruition. And boy, have they. Defense also been a huge calling card for Gordon.
Yeah, they've played in 6 games, and they have allowed 16 points this year.
Actually 36. 2 of them were wrong on our website. I actually had to go dig even deeper and find that, because I thought that the same thing, but they gave up 12 points in that second game of the season, and then an additional
to Garden
8.
City,
yes.
and then to okay, you're right.
So that being said, they've had 3 games where they've given up 8 points, which, remember, in 6-man football it usually counts by 8 because your field goal chance or your extra point chance counts for 2.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they've only given up a score basically in 3 games, and then 12 points in one
other. 5 shutouts, yeah. Like, I mean, that is really stinking impressive.
Yeah, so 36 points given up by the Gordon defense out of all of those games, which in 6-man football is basically unheard of. Moving on down to number 3, Coach Terry Crawford and his Abbott Panthers are back online. They lost to Westbrook last year in the 1A D1 state championship, and as she mentioned, Coach, a big fan of us here at Dave Campbell's. Maybe we're just big fans of him.
I was going to say.
But he's made it very clear that this is his last year as the head coach, as the longtime tenured coach there at Abbott. Very, very, very beloved in the entire six-man community. So if you know Coach Crawford, you're rooting for Coach Crawford to get back to that state championship and have his chance at a little bit of a revenge game there. The offense can definitely score. That defense worries me just a hair. They're very susceptible to giving up quite a good portion of points. So if the defense can stick true, they have the offense that can get in a shootout, but that defense is going to have to step it up a little bit in the back half of the playoffs. Sticking in 1A D1, let's go to the 5th-ranked Jonesboro Eagles. They lost to Westbrook in Week 2, but how about a huge game in the six-man ranks this week as Jonesboro takes on May that will decide the district championship there.
That rocks.
So, and then after that, much to Lance Pickle's demise, they'll blow through Evant in the last week of the season.
Evant.
So, yeah, shout out to the Elks. we love us some Evant Elks.
You got to say it with a country accent too. You got to be like Evant.
The Evant Elks. I have to drive through Evant going home when I go to my parents, so like it's a running joke.
You always wave to them when they're practicing, right?
Yeah. There was one time I was driving home in the swag wagon, and Evant was out there practicing, and it took everything in my being not to stop and say hi to him. I was on a time limit of when I had to be home by. If I would have been 15 minutes earlier, I would have gotten like my whole cup full by going to Evant's practice. Anyway, for another time, if the Elks want to invite me out, I'll go give a motivational speech about turning around their like 0-7 season. Anyway, all besides the point. Jonesboro, big game against May. Moving on now, rounding it all out, 1A Division 2, the 4th-ranked Richland Springs Coyotes. They have looked just as good. Jerry Burkhart, obviously in absence there, but they've been cranking through District 16 of 1A Division 2. Let's see. They still have Cherokee. Is that right? Have they already played Cherokee? And that is the 6th-ranked Cherokee Indians, both of which being in the same.
I want to say that they have.
Let's see. We're going to look this up.
Because I think that we've already done.
I think they already beat them.
I've got it pulled up.
That's good because my computer's not working.
Well, mine is sort of working.
Things are going great.
Yes, they beat Cherokee 40-32. I was gonna say because I'm pretty sure that we've already talked about Cherokee here.
So anyway, both of those obviously number 4 and number 6 residing there in that same district, which is wild, especially in 6-man districts when you only got about 4 or 5 teams to have 2 state-ranked teams in the same district. But yes, they did beat Cherokee 40-32 at Cherokee. So they have definitely solidified their spot as number 1 in that district. So there you go. There are the ranked teams in the Super Centex. We do have one more ranked team to talk about, and that's in the Hill Country region, as we will not be talking about the Llano Yellow Jackets like we were last year. This time last year was a lot happier for me. Anyway, there is a ranked team in the Hill Country region, a much smaller region because so much of it is consumed by the Super Centex, and that is the Greyhounds of Bernie. Boy, do they look good.
They're cooking.
Bays is blazing a path through everybody, and they look like the team to beat in 4A Division 1. Obviously, we saw them last year in the state championship. I think that they would like a rematch and see if they can do it. So the Greyhounds looking absolutely dangerous. The solely ranked team out of the Hill Country region, which is kind of shocking because last year we had a ton. But it ebbs and flows. That's how it is.
It really is.
Bernie looking incredibly solid. So there you go.
Is Edna, are they technically in the Hill Country?
No.
They're not? Okay. I didn't think so.
Nope.
Never mind.
They're more Coastal Bend-ish, which is why when them and Llano met, they played in San Marcos because they were heading up.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's right. Okay.
No, they're not allowed in the Hill Country.
Oh, okay.
They are. I just have a personal vendetta, which they
all
all know.
You do.
And they love to give me, like, they throw it right back at me.
Correct.
So at this time, it's playful fun. But no, Edna is not in the Coastal Bend, or in the Hill Country. Anyway. All right. There are the ranked teams in both the Super Centex and the Hill Country. A good variety of teams there, all the way from 4A D1 down to 1A Division 2. But alas, there are players scattered hither and yonder all across those regions, and we go over to Mallory to locate them.
Hither and yonder?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We got
Talk about your little players.
We got quite a few superstars to get to. Let's start off with the big one. Lake Belton wide receiver Micah Hudson. You can't talk about the Super Centex Waco Belton area without talking about the superstar. He's the number 1 ranked wide receiver
Hey, the
in
best
the
vacation
state.
a baby's ever had.
What?
Do you not know that from the Rugrats?
No.
Oh, God.
It just sounded like a bunch of words coming out of your
Exactly.
mouth.
That's what you sounded like. The number 1 wide receiver.
Wide receiver in the state, and has recently moved up to the number 1 rated prospect in the state of Texas in the class of 2024, thanks to our very own Greg Powers. And he's just a fireworks factory. This season alone has caught 54 passes for 1,105 yards and 14 touchdowns. And dude is just an elite playmaker. I would say probably like the prototypical type receiver that any coach is looking for. He's fast, versatile, a deep ball threat, always a scoring threat. His catch and run ability is off the charts. Legitimately everything that you could want in that position. He's verbally committed to play at Texas Tech. He committed back in September, verbally committed to play back in September, choosing to play for the Red Raiders over massive big-name programs like Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, and Oklahoma. And, man, he sure seems locked into the Red Raiders. And fun fact, if he signs with Texas Tech in December, he will be the highest-rated recruit to commit to the Red Raiders in this modern recruiting area. So, obviously, doesn't need much of an introduction. He is the superstar down there. Micah Hudson, Lake Belton wide receiver.
Yeah, certified 5-star.
Certified stud. I mean,
he's going to play on Sundays. That's
yes.
point blank.
Yes, correct. Moving right on down the list, we've already talked about him a little bit. He needs no introduction. It's Waco Connolly cornerback Kobe Black, and he was our 4A cover boy in this year's summer edition of Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. The story written by yours truly.
How about that?
Isn't that cool?
That is
I got
promotion
to interview Kobe Black earlier on this summer, and he's a great kid. Really, really fun to talk to. He's the number 6 prospect in the class of 2024 in the state and the number 1 corner in Texas, again, according to our very own director of recruiting, Greg Powers. He's an athlete with a really, really great frame. 6 foot, 190 pounds. On the season, he's got 35 total tackles, 18 solo, and 1 interception on this season. And he also plays on the other side. He's got 432 total yards of offense and 4 touchdowns. And he's also just a menace on special teams, too. He plays on KOR and punt return, too, and he's just a menace on there, too. I think truly his athleticism is probably the sole reason that sets him apart from the rest, and he can basically just be plopped down on at any point on the field, maybe not on the line, but on the field and
give him a shot.
Be successful.
Come on,
seriously,
coach.
if you're going to do that with anybody, this is the kid you want to do it
coach.
with. The senior is currently still uncommitted, but has announced his top 5 back in August between LSU, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, and Texas A&M. 247's got him leaning towards either Texas or Texas A&M. So hopefully we can keep this kid in state because it'll be fun to talk about him on the Republic of Football every single week. Moving on down to Temple defensive end Jamarion Carlton from the class of 2026.
Ugh.
How it's
I'm old.
So, I know. I was gonna say like I graduated back in 2017. You graduated back in 2015. So seeing sophomore in high school, class of 2026. It's
11 years post high school.
I know. Seriously. It just makes me it makes me have a little bit of anxiety, but that's okay. And he's been absolutely outstanding this year. It's actually his first year on varsity. He's got a great frame, standing at 6'4", weighing 290 pounds, and he's just downright physical and a force up front. He recorded a sack in his varsity debut against McKinney Boyd, and then a few weeks later, against Arlington Martin, he scored his first varsity touchdown, and it was a 15-yard pick 6. So he's been
big boy. I think I got tagged in that, honestly. I think someone on Twitter put it on there, and they're like, Ashley Pickle 12, big boy touchdown.
Big boy
which
touchdown.
is just a public service announcement. Anytime there's a big boy touchdown, if anyone wants to just tag me in it, for my viewing pleasure, I would love that.
Same. Yes, same. At Ashley_pickle12 at Mallard
Apparently.
on Twitter.
We should do the big boy touchdown of the week.
Correct. Yes, agreed.
If y'all tweet us, we'll show it on the show.
That's not a bad idea. We're producing on the fly here.
We can get
But,
a sponsor.
Correct.
Big
But
boy.
he's been super impressive already so far this year. And again, he's still only a sophomore. He's still very, very young and has room for improvement, but has really caught the attention of a couple of big name programs, some around the state. He holds offers from Houston, North Texas, Nebraska, and SMU. Definitely one to keep your eye on here in the next couple of seasons. Moving right along, it's Lorena wide receiver Jaden Porter. He's been on everyone's radar for quite some time now, I should say, leading Lorena to a state title back in 2021 and 2022, and he's just been electric throughout his varsity campaign, recording over 3,000 receiving yards and 26 touchdowns. So very, very impressive varsity campaign so far for him. I think he got hurt earlier on in this season. He did play against Franklin last week, but he did get hurt earlier on in the season. So that's kind of why his stats, if you look at his stats on Max Preps, that's why they haven't been as impressive as you would think, or there's only like 3 games on there, and that's why he got hurt earlier back in this
He definitely
season.
played a factor in that win against Franklin.
Oh, yes. And then in his this was what really impressed me. So he came back 2 weeks ago when Lorena took on Rockdale. And in his debut back from injury, he caught 4 passes for 75 yards and a touchdown, and then added 4 tackles on top of that. So putting up that kind of a performance after nursing an injury like that honestly speaks to the kind of athleticism that this guy has. He's currently committed to play for the Baylor Bears, and he committed back in 2022 and has honestly looked locked down to the program ever since. So yeah, keep your eye on Mr. Jaden Porter out of Lorena.
That's huge if they can keep. Man,
yeah, it is.
Especially
keep him home too.
Yeah, it was big anyway for Baylor to find him, recognize that's a hometown kid that everyone would love and could actually make a big difference for your program. But then two, with the state that the Baylor Bears are in, if they can keep Jaden Porter committed, that'll be good.
Yes, correct.
That'll be needed.
They absolutely need to keep him home, for sure. And to round it all out, another superstar out of the Hill Country area. It's Bernie quarterback Jackson Bays.
Bays.
Another guy who's helped lead his team to a state championship appearance last season in what was an absolute historic year for the Greyhounds. He's also been out most of the season too. He had an injury as well. I think maybe not most of the season, but a couple of games. But what this kid did last year, and as a sophomore, was just absolutely impressive. Again, led his team to having the best season that program has ever seen, and he put up all these kinds of numbers. He threw for 3,575 yards and 53 touchdowns, literally in one season as a sophomore. Like, he's probably 16 years old, which is crazy to think about. And when this dude has time in the pocket, he can absolutely unleash and let it fly. I honestly think, to me, like, he's probably, maybe it's just because of his age, I think he's a little bit under the radar. Maybe that has something to do with his injury too. He's got
Everyone
a good frame.
was so focused on his brother last year too, and you can't blame him for being focused on the senior running back that was just
bulldozing over people. Right. No, I completely get that. And again, like, he's still very young. He's only a junior this season. But he's got a good frame, 6 foot, 185 pounds, with another year and a half, again, to improve that in high school. And he actually earned his first offer back in May to UTRGV and has interest from other Texas programs like UTSA. So these programs are starting to notice him. And, of course, as Bernie continues on with this season and will inevitably make a deep playoff run, he will be definitely more on the map there. So there you go. Players to watch in the Super Centex and Hill Country region. A lot of superstar talent, which I just absolutely love. I almost did one of those things where I did like an under the radar kind of segment, but it's like, how do you talk about like the Super Centex without bringing up like
Micah
Kobe
Hudson,
Black
Kobe
or
Black,
Micah Hudson? Right. It's just like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I got to stick them on there.
Yep.
You know, like they're just so far up there that you can't not mention them. So there you go. Fun players to watch.
On our Super Centex and Hill Country regional break due. Maze.
Shit. You know what? Look, I can fix this right now on the phone. I can fix this.
I noticed it earlier, and you were already popping off on your players, so I was like, oh, break down. I liked our regional break do better. Why break down when you can break do? The official stance of women talking football.
Dude, that was funny.
I like to think of myself as a person that looks at it like a glass half full.
You are.
So why break down when you can break do?
That's always why I've appreciated you as a person, because you are always a glass half full, because most of the time I'm a glass half empty. No, I'm kidding. No, but you
most of the time I take my glass and I slam it down on the ground. She's like, Thor, another one.
No, we get along because we both are half glass full type people, and we're both positive people. So that's why.
So break do.
Break do. Correct.
We're going to go break do because I've got a thing I need to finish editing here because it just doesn't stop. I will say this, not going to go through the full list yet because I don't have official confirmation on all of them, but be aware that the war on weather is in full effect for the Texas high school football weekend. I think it seems like thus far all of the Thursday night games are continuing as scheduled, but Friday, looking and sounding like from the word that we're getting, a ton of high school football games being moved up in time for tomorrow. So if you are going to a game tomorrow, highly recommend taking a look at like the school's Twitter, contacting the coach, the front office or something to make sure that your game is still scheduled at the same time. As for us with Dave Campbell's Texan Live, we will be working to get our crews there as early as we possibly can to get these games up for everybody. So just recognize that the war on weather is started, and keep a lookout on Twitter for it's at Texan_live and at DCTF. We'll be posting those updates as we're getting them about what games are being moved. There is a chance, just producing on the fly here and being as honest with you as you can, there is a chance that Dave Campbell's Texas football tonight might move up the start time from 7:30, but keep an eye on our social media channels and we will have you covered, because might as well just move some stuff up and have even more football time to talk about.
Correct.
So keep an eye out at DCTF and then at Texan_live if you are going to be joining us in watching some of our broadcasts tonight. We hope you will. Dave Campbell's Texas football tonight, possibly at 7:30, likely a little bit sooner. But if not, we'll see you then.
Correct.